Alrighty guys, what is going on? Today I have a editing tutorial for y'all. This is just the Simple Rock style, the Vegas style, love it or hate it, that's what I do. And I'm making this because I've had more than a couple people ask me to teach them how to explain the basics, and I figured I just might as well make one, put it out there. Obviously, I'm not the best editor, although I don't think that I'm the worst. I think that I'm kind of in the middle of the way, and I have enough knowledge and experience under my belt to actually be able to instruct maybe some newer editors, some players maybe, just on how to, make basic syncing and some really clean edits that form sort of the foundation to get you into some of the better stuff. So that's what I'm doing today. If you're looking for a super in-depth tutorial, this isn't it. I plan on giving a very beginner's take on all of this, so definitely explaining how Vegas works, doing some of the shortcuts, setting up project settings, doing some basic syncing, pan crop, really, really basic like flicker, blur effects, and just general things like that to get the ball rolling, and then from there you can kind of pick up your own techniques and such for that. So don't expect anything too major from this. However, if you know virtually nothing, this might be a good place for you to start. So, I'm going to start with the layout of Vegas. Vegas is very simple. It's kind of hard on the eyes, actually, if I'm being completely honest, at least compared to other programs such as After Effects and Premiere Pro and things like that. So, if this is your first time launching Vegas, there are a couple extra things on your screen that are not on my screen currently. So, if you want to get your screen to look like mine for the sake of the tutorial, make it look a little bit less cluttered, I promise you this is all you need on your screen for your for these purposes. So you can just go to view up here and then go to window and just untick anything that isn't from these 5 things, because I swear this is all you will need for the Simple Rock editing. So right now what we have open, this is a file directory of sorts. This is anything you've dragged in Vegas. This is not your computer. This is anything that is within Vegas. You have a transitions tab, you have a video effects tab, and a media generators tab. The difference between these being that this is solely just transitions in between clips. Obviously, this is effects that can be applied onto clips, and then media generators is sort of like very different things that you can put on top or in between. So there's solid colors, titles and text, things like that you put into the edits. This would be your video previewer. This is what you will preview the video with, obviously. This is your timeline, and this is where all of the actual beefy editing happens within this timeline. And other than that, there's not much that you need to know from here. To do a new project, open an old project, or even clips you can open from here, save as options, and then just a couple other things. But we're going to go back to project media here, and I like to organize my project file as much as possible, and your project file being the actual file that Vegas uses, but I'm going to just refer to it very loosely. So I like to separate the clips that I haven't used, the clips that I have used, and my sound effects, because sometimes players don't record their clips properly, and it doesn't have the actual game audio in it, or their voice will be louder than the game audio, and etc. So you might have to drag in actual gun sound effects. So I like to, click on media bins, not all media, but media bins, and then right click and create a new bin. And I just name them very generally clips, used, so used clips, and then SFX, short for sound effects. So then I drag in my clips, everything but the song. I usually keep the song within the folder, my editing folder on my actual file directory on my computer. So I'll just grab all of these and put this on here. And then I usually put the sound in the sound effects thing, but this is all very preliminary stuff. It really doesn't matter. It's all about preference, opinion, things like that. So once you drag a form of media onto the timeline, like a song, it creates a track. And right now, there are 2 different types of tracks. There is a soundtrack and a video track, and you can very obviously tell which one does what and what they do. So this is a soundtrack. There's a couple buttons right here, and if you've never used Vegas, you might not be very familiar with. So right now, this is our song, and I would not worry about these 2 buttons. You almost never need to use them. This you will see all throughout Vegas. It's right here. It's here. It's literally everywhere in Vegas. And this is literally just their symbol for effects. Mute, solo. This is a little slider for volume. So if this whole track was super loud, you could slide it down. Or if it was super quiet, you could slide it up. For adjusting individual clips, this is your slider. This is a pan slider, so if you wanted to make everything in your right ear or everything in your left ear, I really don't know why you would want to do that for a whole track. But, I mean, you do you, I guess. But as you can see, it's a song. It works. This is a little gauge, an output meter, so right now this is actually kind of clipping a little bit. You can see that the 0.3 means that it's over 0 dB, so I would not generally mess with it too much, but before you start your edit, you want to make sure that you have these project settings. And I can give you a second to try to copy these down, and I'll explain them a little bit as well. So you want to do all your edits in 1920 by 1080. Obviously. Field order, none. I think this is all default. You want it in 29 frames per second or 30, whatever. Pixel format, 8-bit. Best Gaussian blend fields, and make sure that this is disable resample. It's usually on smart resample. Make sure this is disable resample, or else it will make your edit look disgusting. Okay, adjust the source media to better match project or render settings. Make sure that's ticked. This location does not matter. And then once you're done with that, make sure you select this. It will unselect every time you open Vegas, but select it right now. Then go to audio. Make sure this is stereo, 48,016 best. Again, location does not matter. And then you're going to hit apply and OK. So, we're going to get into the actual editing. So, the first thing you want to do is you obviously want to make sure that your clips are in sync to the actual song that you're syncing. I mean, that's a pretty important part. So, a way that a lot of editors, not all, some are special and don't use markers, but most use markers as a way to keep the beat and make their editing process 10 times faster. Because instead of listening to the song over and over and over again to find the beat, they can simply just look at where they place their marker and keep going. So to place a marker, you hit M. So I'm going to listen to my song using spacebar. And if you hit spacebar again, it will bring the cursor back to where it was. However, if you wanted the cursor to pause it where you're at, you're going to hit space to start it and then enter to end it. So as you can see now, the cursor has not gone back to its original position at 4 seconds. It's now at 5 seconds. So I'm going to find a couple of markers. So I know that that's definitely a major beat I want to hit. So I'm going to hit M and enter. Then I'm going to find another one. And I'm going to hit M and enter. But this one is a little bit more dramatic than this one. So I want to make sure that I know that this one is one I definitely want to hit with a shot. So there's 3 different types of markers. I only use 2. But there's another one that you can use that is C. And then you hit enter. And that one is a blue marker, and now you have 2 different types. So I'm going to go ahead and find a couple more, so that way I can get this first clip dragged in. Okay, so I just want to pause for a quick second just to show you a little trick, because sometimes songs are not as easy to find markers for as this one is. So say there wasn't that snare there, and I couldn't tell where the beat was. Music can be divided and divided and divided and divided again. And so a way that you would overcome this is usually if you can't find a snare on one beat, you can find it on another one, that next one. So what you would do is... So I can tell that that's very hard, so I'll hit an M there. And then just kind of eyeball right around this area, and then hit M. So now you've found that missing marker. And I'm going to continue to keep finding different markers. Okay, and every once in a while you want to make sure that you save your project file using Control-S. You can also hit this button up here, but definitely save that within the same folder as your actual thing. And I'm going to name this Tutorial. And hit enter to save it. And make sure you just Control-S all the time. Vegas will automatically save, but it doesn't save frequently enough for me anyway, to where I would lose a lot of progress if I didn't keep saving. And it crashed suddenly, because Vegas crashes very often, especially the more that you load it up with plugins. So we're going to sync our first clip now. So if you listen to the song, it kind of fades in, and I feel like a 1-bullet clip would look very good here. So just to start off, I very conveniently have a jump shot triple on Studio. So you drag your first clip in, and it's going to ask you, do you want to set your project video settings to match this media? Absolutely not. Do not do that, because if this is like a 720, 15 frame per second clip, your whole project is going to be modified to fit that, and then your 1080p 60 frame per second clips, well, the FPS doesn't matter that much. Now your whole project file is at 720p, so it's going to be lower quality. Not to mention, if you hit yes, sometimes it will actually disable resample, which is bad. Very bad. So, we have dragged our clip in here. There are different ways that people go about syncing. None of them are very wrong. However, I'm going to show you my method. And like I said, everybody's is different. But this is mine, and I like how it is, so I'm going to show you mine. So, I'm going to drag along here, and I'm going to find the point where he actually shoots, which was back here. So I want it to be on this blue marker, because like I've said, this is a major beat that I want to hit. So you can trim. I'm not holding any buttons but my left-click mouse button, and I'm just dragging to trim the beginning of this a little bit. And now I'm going to click and move this over to right about here, just so that way it's there. So, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to go to Insert and Remove Envelope, and click Velocity. Velocity is what you will use to actually determine the speed at any point in time during your clip. So right now we're at 100% consistent. It's just 100% straight there. I normally like to fade in, assuming that this is a 60 FPS clip, fade in at 50%. Just because it's nice and slow. And if you're hearing this game audio and it's pissing you off, just hit mute while you're syncing. And then, for my actual speed ups, because in order to sync, you do speed ups and slow downs and speed ups and slow downs and speed ups and slow downs over and over and over and over again until it's all synced. So what I do is I double click to place one marker on this beat, and then I do about a quarter of the next beat. So right about here, eyeballing, and then right about here. But I'm actually going to drag this over. So when you drag, this can go all over the place. So what I do to keep it at 50% is you hold Alt while you click, and I can literally only drag it to side, which is very useful. So there, 50%. Now this I bring to 200%. And as you can see, It's not magically synced. It's obviously not going to be magically synced. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Alt, and I'm going to click and drag over. And what this does, actually, is it is keeping the same, like, dimensioning of the clip, so it's still the same length. However, you're actually moving the space and time that the clip is within the same dimensioning. So, I'm going to drag over, and what is happening, it's splitting into two different windows. Well, this left window is actually the beginning of the clip when I'm dragging, and this right window is actually the end of the clip. So as you can see, whenever I drag this, right now, he's just scoping in on the beginning, but at the end, he's sprinting towards that tunnel. So, obviously, this isn't very helpful for if I'm trying to see where my cursor is at this point in time. So, you have to slowly just kind of nudge it forward, and every time you let go, the video previewer will reveal what frame your cursor is actually at. So, I'm just going to keep nudging it forward, and right there, I can tell he's probably going to hit it. So, you want to look for the frame in which the bullet actually appears in the reticle. Which is right about there. Because it's a little bit smoky. BO2 is kind of hard to tell. It's a little finicky. But right here is where the shot is. So now, our clip is synced. Nice. So, obviously, I don't want this to just cut in. That looks very ugly. So what I do is I'll right-click on an empty space. If you right-click on the clip, it will not work. It does not show up. However, if you right-click on the empty space, the gray space, you now have this magical option called Composite Level. And all the Composite Level is if you remember earlier, I showed you that this little bar for lowering and raising the opacity or the sound of a clip, all of this is its velocity for opacity. So I can double-click, drag this down, and then double-click and bring this all the way up right here. And now we'll have a nice fade-in. Okay. So that looks fine. There's nothing wrong with that. However, you hear this little, like, snare right here. And I really feel like a speed up would be nice right there. So we're just going to do a little speed up right here. But now you can see our clip is out of sync. What the heck? It's because we placed the speed before the other one. So now this clip has gone faster than it was before this point. So now we have to redo it. So we're round about where the shot is. And that's the nice thing about the rock style is you don't have to be very precise with where the bullet is as long as he's scoped in. Because most of the guys that you'll be editing for, most likely, will be pretty good at the game to the point where they're quick scoping to where if you are I wouldn't say 5, I'd say 3 or 4 frames off of the actual shot is basically unnoticeable for your syncing. So now we're going to zoom in. Okay, cool. So it's basically the same. I just did that to show you that you need to be mindful of when you change the velocity because your shots might be out of sync now. If you really wanted to get that impactful look, I would suggest choosing another clip, or what you can also do is you can sort of you could cut this so that way there's only a couple of frames where he's actually zoomed in because he's not moving right here. So you could, or what you could also do is you could make this much greater, resync this. Yeah, like that. But that looks kind of gross in my opinion. In my professional opinion. So, yeah. Right there. Yeah, cool. So, most editors include gun sounds in their edits. And thankfully, these clips are recorded properly. Obviously, this guy he's very good. He knows what he's doing. And he's been doing it for a while. So, he has included the proper gun sound technique. He's included a properly recorded clip so that way you can use the normal gun sound technique. So all you're going to do is you're going to unmute this, and I like to solo it so that way I just hear the gun sound. And you can hear that this is the shot where he actually hits them. Hear how beefy that is, and then there's no gunshot after that, so he's hit those guys. He's hit those guys. He knows he's hit those guys. So right now, if I was to alt drag this, it actually drags my clip as well, and that's because these two are grouped together, they're binded together. So what you do to unbind them is you either click the video or the audio. Make sure not both are selected or else this won't work, but just the video or the audio, and hit U, which ungroups them. And now, if I drag this, it doesn't drag our video with it. So you can see very easily with these peaks, where the gun sound is, it's right here, and you're just going to drag the beginning of that right to that blue marker right there. So now, we have that gun sound right there. So if you unsolo, you have your gun sound. Now, there's a lot of sniper shots going on before this, so what I would actually suggest is cutting it using S, and then deleting this using delete, not backspace, but delete, and then dragging this in. This creates a fade. You could also right-click and insert or not right click, but hit V, and this inserts like a composite level for volume. However, for audio purposes, I usually just use this. Okay, and this is about the end of the gunshot, and I'm gonna fade that out. So cool. If this is not showing up, say it's right here, and you're like, oh, I can't grab it. It's this little triangle right here. And that's a little bit loud for me, so I'm gonna drag this down. And that's good. That's fine with me. So that is a very basic sync. But in between clips, you want some sort of transition. Whether it's a fade, whether it's a speed transition, whether it is an actual transition in Vegas, you want the clips to transition. If you just cut clips and then put another one right here, that looks pretty bad. Like that doesn't look clean. So ways the editors prevent that from happening is they do different types of transitions. And you can experiment with these. You can look through a couple popular ones if you want to write them down. Venetian blind, iris, gradient wipe, linear wipe. Those are the very popular ones. I'm not going to show you any of them in this because that would just make this video longer than it already is. However, definitely something to look into, especially if you're trying to build your own style. I had it for a while there where I was definitely doing a lot of Venetian blinds, and that I really solidified into my edits. And it was cool, but I mean, at the same time, I mean, everybody knows how to do it. So for these tutorials, I'm going to show you a crossfade, I'm going to show you a speed transition. So right here, I think a speed would work. Okay, so I want it to be right here. Or, no, right here. So what you do is you go a quarter of the clip, then bring this up, and I'm going to make this a slow fade. So I right-clicked right here on this line, and I made it a slow fade. Reason being is it gradually gets faster. It looks a lot better than a smooth fade on the ends of clips. So on the ends of clips, I normally do slow for the end and fast for the beginning. However, you could do smooth. It's almost unnoticeable, but I think it's just a very little finesse in it that makes it look good. And in between this is kind of boring. So I'm actually going to do a couple little speed ups right here. Just very quickly. Making sure this is this. Okay. Okay, cool. That looks good. So, part of being an editor is being very musically conscious. In order to keep up a good flow, which is your clips interacting with the song, you need to make sure that you understand music at least a little bit. So right here, that's kind of a semi-major beat, like right there, so that's where I want this next clip to start. And then obviously I marked this, indicating that this is a major beat. I need to definitely make sure that there's some emphasis on this beat, whether it's with an effect, an ending shot, a beginning shot, whatever, this needs to have emphasis on it. So I'm just going to drag in another one. I'm going to preview this clip and make sure that it's 5 shots, because this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shots that I want on here. And it's only 4, great. See if this is plus 25. Really? Okay, that's 5. That's 5. Fantastic. So, I'm going to drag this right here. I'm going to mute my gun sounds track, and I'm going to hit right-click, insert velocity. Now, like I've said before, on either end, I do 200. On the beginning end, I make sure it's 200. On the end, I just do it as fast as I want, as fast as looks clean. So right there, 412, perfectly fine. I don't really care. But for the beginning, always do 200 or 300. Nothing too fast. So there, I've done my fast fade, and now I'm going to get started. Like I've said previously, I want this to be a shot, so I'm going to do this really basic sync. 200, good to go. And I'm going to drag, using Alt, until I see that he shot somebody, and killed somebody, because there he just shot, but I'm not going to sync it because he didn't kill anybody. So, I believe there he did kill somebody. So, COD 4, very easy game to tell where he shot. I mean, if you can't see that, I don't know what you can see. So, we're going to preview this little speed transition. Very clean. Muy bonito. It's very good. Very good. Alright, so we've sunk that. Now we're going to go here, and we're going to attempt to sync our second shot. 200. So, if we go to right here, he has already shot. We were a little bit too... Oh, no. Actually, that's perfect. No, that's perfect. We're good. We're good. Okay, 250, 50, 200. So right here, okay, excellent. He has not shot yet. This is out of sync. So we've been doing this 250, 250, 250. You don't necessarily have to stick with that, and that's part of the beauty of the rock style, is you don't have to do all of this weird finagling to try to get your clips to fit. What you do instead is you just set the speed to something that makes it so that way this fits. So say 70 or 70, and here he still hasn't shot. So what you can do then is you can put this up to 100, and there, he's about to shoot. So if we set this up to like 225, that should look okay. And yeah, that looks okay. I would personally actually set this to probably 250 and put this down to a 75, just so that way it gives it like a little bit of a cleaner, kind of slower vibe. But I mean, you do whatever you want. And like I've said before, if you're like 3 frames off, it's really not that big of a deal. Just kind of adjust a little bit, so maybe make this one 80. Make this one also 80. And just keep it within like 1 or 2 frames. And then we're going to go to our next one. And same deal, we're going to have to bring this up to about 250. So right here, in order to make the clip actually exactly on the shot, I had to bring it all the way up to like a really drastic 431. I would put this down to about 355, and then you see it's really way too fast. So what you can do is, rather than adjusting the speed to make it slower, what you can do is adjust the curve, because right now it's staying the same up until this quarter of this thing. Then it drastically drops, then it stays the same. So what you can actually do is convert this to like a fast fade, so that way it just very fast speeds down, so that way it's not as fast. There. And this whole clip is in sync now. Yeah, you see? And it looks decent. It looks okay. Okay, so now I'm going to show you... we have to sync our gun sounds. We have to sync our gun sounds. So I'm going to solo this. Okay, so we are going to hit U to ungroup them. Drag this first gun sound here. And it's a little bit hard because this is a SL, so you hear multiple M40 going off. So that's the first shot, second shot, third shot, fourth shot. Or maybe 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay. So this is actually his second shot. So this is actually in sync already. However, this is such an SL clip that literally it's all M40, so it's going to sound disgusting. So I'm going to show you how to actually add in your own custom gun sounds. So you're going to have to really search YouTube. Search YouTube, call it COD 4, Gun Sounds Pack, BO2, Gun Sounds Pack, all of that. Search YouTube. But I have it in my little editing folder. I have gun sounds, and it's for most of the majority of the CODs. So COD 4 Modern Warfare, I'll go right in here. We have M40. Perfect. Drag that right in. It's beautiful. So this is literally just the gun sound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it in here. I'm going to alt-drag it right here. And then I'm going to, since this is our next beat, I obviously don't want the gun sound right there. So I'm going to then fade it out. So. And I'm just going to Control-C and Control-V this thing all the way across. Yeah, and so this is a little bit too loud, so what I would do is I would drag this down, definitely, and I would fade these ones out for much longer. You want to fade out as long as you can as to not make it very short, so right here I would actually do that. Make this one quieter, quieter, quieter. And they're still a little bit too loud, but for the purpose of this tutorial, this is perfectly fine, it's whatever. So, I'm going to now show you a fade. So, I'm not going to actually sync this last clip, but I'm going to show you how to fade clips. So, right here, if you literally, it's so simple. It's the most simple thing ever. You literally push the clip into it, and now it creates a... They fade into each other so beautifully. So, you saw a problem here. Watch the audio tracks when I push this in. It fades the audio. Very rarely would you actually want that to happen. So say I wanted my fade to be right here, like right there. I don't want my audio tracks to fade like that. So I'm going to hit U, and I'm just going to pull this so that way it doesn't do that. Reapply my fade out on my COD 4 gun sound. And there, that's your fade. That's cool. It looks good. Whoops, I accidentally hit F, which regroups them. So, we have our fully synced edit right now. It is fully synced. However, there's no effects, and there's no screen pumps, there's no pan crop, there's nothing. So I'm going to now show you pan crop. The pan crop is the screen pumps. It makes the screen go in and out. And a lot of editors use this on every shot. Some editors like Ollie and like Jimmy VE, they use it only on like effects. It's really weird. I love it. I absolutely love it, but I could never do it because I don't understand how they can do that. But for me, I do it on like every shot. So some people do it actually within this, which is the pan crop tool on the clip. But I actually do it right here, which is the pan crop for the actual track. So I'm going to click. I just drag this out of the way so I can still see it. And right on the shot, I hit Restore View. Restore View would be, if I had this like dragged out all the way, this is massive, I can hit Restore Box, not Restore View, Restore Box, and it brings it back to where it is. But as you can see, it's automatically placed a marker. And if you look, I'm dragging my cursor right here, and it's moving this cursor. If that is not happening for you, it's because you don't have this box, Sync Cursor, checked. So you want to make sure you have Sync Cursor checked. And now would be a lovely time to Control S, and make sure you've saved it. So, open this up over here, expand these track keyframes. I'm going to double click on position again. So we've laid a thing right here, and I do anywhere from 3 to 5 frames. So because this is such a major and like exaggerated beat, I'm going to only do 3 to make it extremely fast. Now, what you want to do is you grab this corner, you don't need to push any buttons, and you just bring this out. It's right about there. It really depends on the beat and the song that you're working with, but for this, that will be good. And then you go to the next one where you want it to be. So if I did like a certain effect here, I could do that. So like right now I know I want to do a TV simulator effect. In certain effects, as you develop your own effects style, you want to pair certain effects with a pan crop. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to restore the box on this beat, and I'm going to go to 1, 2, 3 frames again, and just do a slight zoom in. And this is actually too big. That's why it's zooming out super fast. And I don't like how fast that was. So you make the first one smaller, so that way it doesn't zoom in as fast. And I definitely want one on this COD 4 clip, so I restore box. And I'm going to do 5, actually. So I'm using the arrow keys. I never showed you guys this. I'm so stupid. Arrow keys. No other button held. Just an arrow key press moves forward 1 frame. So 5 frames. And we're going to bring it out like this. We're going to go to the next one. And we are going to restore the box. 1, 2, 3. We'll do 3. Well, we'll do 4. Go a little bit less, because this isn't a dramatic beat. Restore the box. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right there. We'll do restore box. 1, 2, 3. A little bit bigger now. And restore box. 1, 2, 3. And make this fucking gigantic. Because this next shot isn't going to be till, like, right here. So then we'll restore the box there. So we're going to hit Control Save. And we'll go. Yeah, that looks great. That pan crop looks awesome. So, I said before I wanted to pan it with a TV simulator effect. So, you would go into video effects, look up whatever effect you want. There's brightness and contrast, there is lens blur, there is TV simulator, there's color corrector. There's so many that I could show you, but I want you to develop your own sort of effect style. So, take notes on this if you want to do brightness and contrast, if you want to do like flickers, that's like brightness and contrast. If you want to do like blurs, usually they use lens blur for that. If TV simulator, I'm about to show you zoom blur, and these are all different plugins that you can get. So BCC is one that I would get. Look up how to get BCC free if you want to do that. I don't condone pirating. YouTube, don't sue me. So there's BCC. New Blue Effects is a big one. And then the Sapphire plugins will get you the infamous S_shake, which a lot of people use. I use it. It's a nice effect. But I actually usually put brightness and contrast and lens blur on this because I use it so fucking often. But we're actually going to, just for the sake of the tutorial, drag it onto this clip to show you how to do that. So you look up brightness if you're looking for brightness and contrast. It's laggy. It takes a second to do this the first time you load up Vegas, like in a new day. So from now on, it won't be like laggy. But that's how you would drag that on. Even though I X'd out, it's still applied to the clip. You can see because this is blue rather than the gray that it was before. So say I want to get rid of brightness and effects, I just hit remove. So now we're going to look up TV simulator. And this is really fucking ugly. So I'm just going to click reset to none. And then I'm going to go right here, and you're going to hit animate to animate it. And then you want to make sure that you add a keyframe before, like, a clip. And this is why I wasn't going to show you too much of effects, because it gets very confusing very quickly. So you add a keyframe, because if you didn't, if I say I applied, like, a fucking shit ton of, like, so if I said I wanted this to be, like, none, and then on the next frame just, like, apply, like, a shit ton of, like, line sync, it slowly fades it in from the beginning of the clip, which isn't what I wanted. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to hit Control-Z, hit reanimate, and then I'm going to plant a thing right here, so that way it stays consistently none up until this point. Then when I do my thing, which will be about 9/4 of this, a little bit of interlacing and a little bit of this, and then I drag it out, and I usually fade this out, so I'll put this back, all of these back, now you can see it's 0 all the way up until where I want it. Yeah, so cool. I don't want to show you too many effects because I want you to develop your own effects style. I don't want anybody to copy me. So, but I do want to show you a couple other ways that Vegas, every plugin is different, so the way that you would animate them in order to add keyframes and such to make the effects only at certain points is different. So you see there, that was a little animate button in the bottom left corner, but if we were doing brightness and contrast, so say if I wanted like a brightness effect right on the beginning clip, the beginning like keyframe, make this a little bit smaller so if I can see. So if I wanted like a brightness, like I'll go one frame before, which is what I normally do. If you hit this right here, nothing's going to happen because there's no keyframe on this because there's multiple options you can keyframe. So right now you're going to hit animate, and then make sure you put a keyframe right there. And then I usually do it till it looks good. So 15 or 20. Yeah, 20. And I fade this out for a whole thing. Double click, 0, enter. So now you can see right here, if you drag your cursor, you can see exactly where you've applied those keyframes. But I'd say a majority of the Vegas plugins are like this. However, TV Simulator is kind of a special case. I know that some other ones, like Pinch, is like that, where it's in the bottom left corner. But some of them are this little itty bitty clock. Because you could also keyframe this contrast. But I don't think anybody in the history of editing has ever done that. So yeah, there's that. And then the last thing that I want to show you is how to apply a CC. So this is not how I would normally, do a CC. Or actually, before I show you CC, I want to show you one last thing that I got very confused when I first started. So black bars coming in, pinching the clip a little bit. That is an effect that is kind of more obscure to learn, and not a lot of people will show you how to do it, and I'm going to show you how to do it right now. So you insert a video track above all your other video tracks. Make sure it is the top video track. Then you're going to go to Media Generators and type in Solid Color. Drag a white color. I don't think it matters, but I've never used a color other than white. I don't think it matters too much. We'll experiment right now. Drag it over the entirety of your project. The entire song. Okay? Now what you're going to do is you're going to go to right here, which is the blending mode, and you're going to do multiply, which is also another term for mask. Okay, so I learned something new today. The color does in fact matter, so I'm going to change that real quick back to white. Okay, and you can see, with it on or off, it doesn't make much of a difference. But this is how you would do black bars. So again, your own effect style. I want you to develop your own effect style. But this is personally the keyframing that I do. So I go 3 or 4 frames in front. I split it. I do a couple frames after, like that much after. Say I wanted it to fade out there. You go to the pan crop on this clip. Now, if I drag this right now, nothing really happens. So I'm just going to Control Z to restore this. Uncheck lock aspect ratio. As much as I love this tool, and it makes sure that it stays in 16:9, uncheck it for this instant only. This instance only. You only want to ever make sure that this is unchecked for this purpose. Now what you're going to do is you're going to drag it in. And look at that. You now have black bars. This automatically keyframes it. And I'm going to drag this out and hit right-click, restore. So now you have black bars. And that's the one thing that I definitely wanted to show you is black bars, because it's such a weird effect. Because you could do it on here, but the problem is the pan crop from the track will overpower that, so then it will look really weird, and this will get bigger and smaller as the screen pump comes in. So if I'm confusing you, just don't listen, just don't pay attention. But that's how I do it. And so the last thing I was getting at was a CC. So especially on the older CODs, like World at War COD 4, they look really bad without a CC. They're very bland, saturated games. And MW3 as well. They definitely went for a saturated color palette. So what you do is this little button here applies video to every track inside of your composition. So you're going to just click on that. And for color correction, all I personally do is go to Vegas and do color curves. I hit OK, and this is my entire color correction. This is all that I do. I make sure that it looks decent on a couple of the clips, and I'm like, yeah, that looks pretty decent. That looks okay. Some people drag it out a lot more, so that way it gets a lot more contrast. Do whatever you think looks best. You can do that. That is literally all that I do. However, I know that there are a couple people that will go in here, they'll get real fancy, they'll add like a saturation effect and all of this other stuff, and like they'll add like a blur to the outside and stuff like that. This is literally all I do. I just make sure that the brighters get brighter and the darks get darker. So yeah, that's a basic rock edit. Last thing I want to leave you with is if you want to do the plain text at the beginning, very simple. Let's pretend, hypothetically, this clip isn't here. This clip isn't here. This was never synced. But instead, you wanted the titles and text to be right here. You go into Media Generator, Titles and Text. Drag this onto your clip, okay, or onto that track. Type in, so my name is it's D-Red. And I do the very typical DRide Presents. Make this kind of smaller so that way it doesn't take up the entire screen. And then pick a font that works for you. So I know I usually work with UGothic, UI, UGothic Regular, and Arial. So yeah, we'll do that. And then I go 3 frames before the marker. 1, 2, 3. I'll push this here. 3 frames before this marker. 1, 2, 3. There. Get rid of that. And what I do is I hit this. So the beginning I want it this big, but right here on beat, make sure you recheck this. And I make it kind of small. Like right there, go to the end, make it even smaller by a little bit. And boom. Just Control V, create new copy. You don't want to create a reference. And then just literally hit this. Yeah, and just keep doing that until, like, whenever. And that is my editing tutorial. After 51 minutes, I hope that I explained how to edit to you. My voice fucking hurts. I'm done with this shit. But I hope this helped you, at least in some form or way. So, yeah. Goodbye.